You're listening to Permission to Shine, the podcast by Sherisse Bisram. The Oxford Dictionary describes permission as the action of officially allowing someone to do a particular thing, consent, authorization. What if you were that someone and you gave yourself the permission to be everything you wanted to be and more? No more playing small and accepting less than. You are worthy of the life of your dreams, regardless of what it is that you've been through. And honestly, it's exactly what you've been through that has shaped you into the version of yourself that you are now. Like a diamond, you've endured so much, but instead of breaking, you have become stronger and brighter. And if that's not a reason to shine, then I don't know what is. And if nature can do it, then why the hell can't you? You are brave, you are strong, you are powerful, and you are enough. Hear my call and give yourself the permission to shine, because you don't realise how many people are inspired by your light. Like, share, follow, subscribe, and listen out for more. Stay tuned. Okay, amazing. We are back. This is episode 9, and I'm so excited to have the lovely Raven Scott here. And she is a spiritual mentor and a human design reader as well. For those of you that do not have any idea what that is, we will dive into it. But I had the absolute honour of meeting Raven as being a guest on her show. So it was only fair that I returned the favour, and instantly I was just taken in by your energy, by your presence. You have such a calm, beautiful openness to you. And I think in a world where we are all so busy living and, you know, powering through everything, it's just always nice to meet people that are a breath of fresh air. So thank you for coming on. And yeah, if you want to just dive in a little bit deeper about your title, what it is you do, who you are.
Yes. Well, thank you for that. And I really, really enjoyed you on the show. It was amazing. I mean, you shared how empaths can find their superpowers through their passions. And I think I remember mentioning to you in the email right before I was producing it. I was like, I can't get enough of this episode. Like when I'm editing it, I was like, I had a whole page of notes. Like it's a must listen. Like you're such a beautiful guest. So I really appreciate you
Thank
being on
you.
the show. Yeah. Yeah, so
Amazing.
I am the host of Empath and the Narcissist. It is a show that helps empaths heal spiritually from narcissistic abuse. And we heal with human design. So I pair it together. And for a long time, I resisted it. I mean, even though I did also write a book called Empath and the Narcissist. And the very last chapter, I did something about human design. I was like, let me just sneak this in. Not really sure how it integrated. And then as the more that I was evolving and learning myself and applying human design to my life and my healing journey, I realized it goes so well together. It's like peanut butter and jelly, but you don't even realize it. It's just, if you're always thinking that you are what you're conditioned or you are what the narcissist or anybody says in your life, then you're just out of alignment. You're confused, you're lost. And when I found human design, it helped me really understand like who I truly was. Like not just me as a person on earth, like me at my soul's core and who like what I'm here for and what are my major themes of energy. And it's just, I mean, I get so passionate about it. I love it. It's just such an amazing tool to help you know who you uniquely are.
Yeah, I love it too. And you know, for anyone that's listening, obviously Raven, you'll go into a bit more detail about what it is exactly, but for
Yeah.
me, I was using astrology almost to find my way in that sense, you know, and
Yeah.
also just
I
spiritual
did too.
practice. And then
Yeah.
when I found out about human design, I was still mind blown by it. And I'm still very an amateur in that field. I don't have really a deep understanding. I mean, when I did the episode with you, you were able to give me even more knowledge than I even was aware of. But it's just a nice way to understand yourself, as you said, on a deeper level. And I think what the great thing about it is almost like the scientific-y kind of stuff as well as the spiritual stuff combined. So it makes a lot of sense for logical
Yeah.
thinkers, which I think will
Yeah.
help, you know, if people have not heard of it before. But we'll definitely go into that in a moment. I'd first of all would
Okay.
love for you to share a little bit about your story, because obviously you have a story as to why you got into the podcast, you know, why empath and narcissist, all of these things. So I'd love to know, you know, the woman behind all of this. So if you could just, you know, share with us your life's journey, please.
Oh, yes. I'd be happy to. I won't go too far back, but a bit of my childhood, just to give you a premise, like I've always been spiritual, but I was raised in a very conservative Christian home, which I think is lovely for so many people. And I really respect everyone who does. Like, I still adore and love Jesus, just not in the sense of how I was taught as a child. I just have a little bit different perspective now as I've grown older. But I was the chaplain, I was a worship leader, I went to a Christian school, like it was very sheltered. And I think the one drawback to the sheltering is that it was also like they did not believe in the science of the world, they would call it, right? Like, so they didn't believe in evolution. And so when I met, and ironically, I met my first love in the church on the worship team, and he started questioning things like he knew all about science and all this stuff, astronomy, talk about the stars and how vast the universe is. And he just started questioning his own faith. And then it kind of got me questioning it too, because honestly, I was really mad that I wasn't taught about evolution. Like, and it all of a sudden it just made sense to me. I was like, yeah, how could the earth be only 2,000 years old? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And what about the dinosaurs? And what about this? And like, my brain just went, oh my gosh, this makes logical sense. And then I was like, I've been lied to my whole life. And that kind of put me in this spiral of rebelling and leaving the church, being mad at my parents for sheltering me and all the things. So it shifted me from worshiping a savior in the church to worshiping a savior in my relationship with this guy. Like, he was my new savior. I looked to him for everything, for the truth. And that was a really slippery slope because he ended up being very unhealthy mentally. I was confirmed by my therapist after I left this 10-year long relationship that he was emotionally abusing me. And there was also sexual abuse in that realm as well. In a consensual relationship, that can still happen. So I had all that to deal with. But as it took so many times for me to wake up to that this relationship is toxic. And it's kind of become my mission. And it was interesting, Sherisse, between you being on my show and me coming here, I had an Akashic record reading, and she said, and I don't know how weird we can get, but like this word Lemurian came up as I was like entering into the Akashic records, and immediately she was like, the guys are saying that, yeah, you have 52 lives as a Lemurian. You are an intense healer. Like, that's just who you are naturally. And you're here to heal your husband, my current husband's now bloodline. And which is blew my mind away because that was the biggest thing, only for my own personal like wants and desires, is when I got pregnant with my first and I discovered she was a girl. I was like, and I went back to church. So I was like, okay, God, like, I got a lot of work to do. Like, if it's a girl, I'm devoted 110% to my spiritual journey and my healing. And then we found out it was a girl. I was like, yep, okay, I knew it, but here we go. Let's deep dive into it. And it was really interesting to get that confirmation. Like, I am here to actually be the cycle breaker, heal my children as I really thought that I should, and heal that generation and all of that. So it's been a crazy journey. And I felt called to write a book about it. It was very cathartic. So I wrote it out, and I wrote out all the different exercises that I experienced that helped me release all of the anger, right? It's like when you leave a toxic relationship, it's like mourning a death of somebody. Like, you get angry. Well, first you get sad, and then you get angry. And it's like, how do you get out of that anger cycle? So I found all these different spiritual modalities that really helped me. And they weren't through the church, ironically. It's funny. My husband's like, what was that last trigger that made you leave finally? And I just realized that I kept putting people on a pedestal, even in the church, and like going back thinking that that was the next solution to my problem. But the solution was within me. And that's when I really embarked on that healing spiritual journey with like no constructs, no religion, no nobody, right? No one guru that's going to tell me what to do. The healing journey is within me. And so that was quite a powerful aha moment.
I mean, wow, that's so beautiful how you articulated all of that. And just a bit of clarity for the listeners. When I
Yeah.
was on Raven's show, I was speaking about doing the past life regression. So that's why when we spoke about the I never say it right.
Akashic.
There we go. Akashic records. That's what happens. So when you go into your past life regression, you go through the records of your life and your soul's journey. So for those that aren't as woo-woo that are listening, I just wanted to clarify that. There were so many incredible points to your story where I was like, yes, all
I know.
of
I
those
should
things.
have paused. Sorry.
No. It was lovely to just you to be an absolute flow. And I think what's really interesting is that my previous guest was speaking about how almost her way of navigating life was control, but in a way that she that her guiding force was always to be successful and to get validation. And isn't it funny how it presents itself the same devil in all of our lives presents itself in so many different ways. So for this idea of, like, you know, putting people on a pedestal, how many of us have done that subconsciously? And whether it's, you know, a person, a goal, a thing, that we're actively just striving for this thing, or we make it such a big grand gestural thing, this either this person or this situation. And then maybe if we do get there, or we've been with this person a while, we realize that actually it wasn't what it was meant to be. It was always within us. And I think, you know, that's the beauty of alchemy, isn't it? It's all of that whole journey. If anyone's read The Alchemist, it's, you know, he comes back to himself, and that's where the good stuff is. And that's your story, which is so incredible. And even just your book and how human design's helped you. I'm so fascinated by you, just full stop, because I think when I obviously before I came onto your show and I was researching it, like what you've done before, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. But actually your presence as a whole is just really beautiful, as I said at the beginning. And I really hope that those listening really feel that, because, you know, being a healer, you feel it for just even through your voice, through your story, through your nature. And I hope that those actually watching it on the YouTube as well, they'll get that same feeling. So thank you so much for being here and sharing all of that, because it's so beautiful and amazing. I guess obviously my podcast is called Permission to Shine. So I would like to ask you, where do you think the point was for you in your life where you really did give yourself that permission to shine?
To be honest, it was only just recently, even though I was healing all the layers of my childhood conditioning from all the lies that the narcissist fed me, that kind of implanted into my subconscious. I mean, even just recently, I always feel like when I'm working with somebody, I always feel like I'm going to fail them because of just this constant pattern of, like, the shoe is always dropping, or the person I've been interacting with is so not volatile, but like irrational, right? The narcissist, people who are like just emotionally like inequipped, like as far as emotional tool wise, you just all of a sudden become habitual to, oh my gosh, like you're really excited in the split second moment, like I did something great, and then you're like, oh my god, like I messed up, maybe I made a mistake, maybe they're gonna be mad at me. And I realized that was a conditioning from all of those different actual interactions with toxic people, that the shoe just kept dropping. I mean, even writing my book, I feel like I still didn't really have permission to shine. I wasn't sure if it was going to be successful. Starting my podcast, I started it completely different and really didn't know if it was going to shine. So hearing that my healing, it's almost like building trust little by little, hearing feedback from people who are finding my podcast now, as it's called, Empath and the Narcissist, reaching out saying, oh my gosh, I love your podcast. It's really helping me through something. The other day, I had someone say, I was reading your book, a portion that was really helping me, giving me affirmations. And at that moment, the door knocked and I was served by my ex-narcissist. And I was like, oh my God. And she was so grateful she was in that moment in the book, because she's like, otherwise I would have just spiraled. So it's like all of those little trust building affirmations of my healing is actually doing something. And it doesn't have to do anything. Like you said, just me being here is it. And finding my purpose in the human design chart. That's really when I think the trigger to like tiptoeing through, like, can I shine? Am I willing to shine? Like, am I worthy to shine? Like that really started to come out when I discovered my human design chart, but not until I like was receiving the feedback, like, okay, what you're doing here is helpful. It's not about you, right? This journey isn't just about you. And it's not even about results or money. It's just like, am I making a difference in the world? So that's really it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And that's so beautiful and really important, because I think a lot of people listening could probably really relate to that. Like, I think um life and everything presents itself so differently to so many different people. And I think, sometimes when people see a successful person, they just assume that, they're this bold, glittering light that's just shining out onto the world. But actually hearing that it's almost a gradient that's gotten brighter and brighter the more that you've been able to trust yourself, and the less you're sabotaging yourself with the thoughts that have been so ingrained to you. And that's the beauty of doing the work, like both of what we do in our careers is that we are giving people that space to fully understand themselves and like become self-aware and understand the patterning and the triggers and all of these things. And again, it's like, what I always say, it's like we're just clearing the pathway. The more we understand what the blocks are, the limitations are, we take their power away, and then we're able to give ourselves back the power that we've given out for so long, especially when it's been to a narcissist or to a person or a certain situation that's been unfulfilling. It's like, we allow ourselves to fully, deeply receive, but also give in that just natural and deep way. It's really wonderful, and it's so spot on, because I feel like a lot of the guests I've had on have probably had a pivotal moment in their life where they've been like, yeah, and then that way I just step forward. But actually, it's so important for everyone to know that everyone is so different, and it doesn't take away from your beauty or your integrity or what you are here to do in this world, because we are all so powerful and special as we are. My saying, you are the only you there is, and that's your superpower. And that doesn't matter if you're whispering, you're on your hands and knees, you're crawling along, you are still powerful. And it's just so wonderful to hear your story and just how you've transmuted your pain into power, which is just beautiful. And the fact that you are still so gentle with it, which I think is real strength, and that's something that I never really understood before, that how much power gentleness holds. It's such a beautiful trait to have, and I admire it, because I feel like only now am I really stepping into my true divine femininity and allowing myself to be gentle and delicate. And it's something that I don't feel like is a natural thing for me, or it presents itself very differently, but I'm learning to love that part of me anyway, however it comes out. So thank you for
I
all of your
remember relating to that with you when you were talking about that. Like I felt the same way as a child to survive. I mean, I was always like, I need to be successful, almost not even because I had to, because my parents would only love me if I was successful. I just felt this immense personal pressure, solely personal. It's like, and I see it in my daughter. It's like, there's no pressure on the outside. It's just like this internal drive to be perfect. And I mean, how else do you do that in this society but be overly masculine and push and drive and do and then shine and dominate, which is an interesting word because that is my incarnation cross theme in the human design chart. Is the incarnation cross of dominion, which gets very technical. I don't even go into incarnation crosses until like the third session with somebody. But that's it. That I had to balance my dominating kind of trait and character. And that's so thank you for affirming that my work is working. I am gentle.
No, absolutely that. So I mean, really and truly, you've covered all of the things that I wanted to ask you to begin with about your journey. I mean, the stories that and the things that you're still overcoming now. Like, I think that's such a really important part, because the real importance about doing this podcast is showing just how, like we said, how powerful everyone is individually, and how that although, my guests may seem to have everything together, they're still human and we're still working through things. And I think, the vulnerability of sharing that with the world is just powerful, because the more obviously we do that, the more we give permission to other people to do the same. So I guess now is a really great time for us to dive into human design, and I guess for you to kind of just share a little bit more about it. I guess, I mean, you said you found it as you were coming into your healing space. So did you have someone that read your chart? How did that come into play?
Yeah, it was so cool. I was in like a coaching cohort of people who wanted to kind of create like a side hustle, but for me it was really my main hustle because I had babies and I knew I wanted to be home for them. I didn't want a nanny to take care of them or them to be in full-time preschool. So I was like, I got to figure out a way how I didn't even have to, but like it just, again, like that internal drive, like how can I make money and contribute to the household from home? And yeah, she said, I'm offering to read people their human design charts for free. It was something she was dabbling in. But right away, when she hopped on the call, she was like, I'm not going to do this as my profession. I was like, okay, well, thank you so much for the gift. She just had the gift and she wanted to share it. Yeah. And it was so affirming. Everything she said, I was like, yeah, you're right. That's me. Oh my gosh, that's me. And I hear it every single time I read someone else's chart too. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so creepy. You know, it's like when you read a really good horoscope, you're like, oh my God, that's totally me. Because it has all of that. So what it is, it's like an astrology chart where you give your birth information and your location, and then it pulls up like where the planets are. So it incorporates neutrinos, which is the fun part that I love, the science of how astrology also works, because neutrinos are these tiny, like massless nuclear particles coming from a nuclear fusion out in space, and they travel through at the speed of light or maybe faster, I forget. And they go through, let's say they go through like Jupiter, right? Wherever the planets are aligned at that moment. And then at the same time, they then travel to Earth and then kind of like hit Earth. So that's why we need the birth time as well as the location. Because like, where are these neutrinos hitting? And how does that all affect you? And then it incorporates astrology, I Ching, and the Kabbalah and the chakra system. So it's really, you know, the shapes on the chart are correlated to the chakra system. The I Ching, again, just correlates to the energy themes. And on your chart, you have all these numbers running on either side. And you're like, what is happening? What are these? That's the astrology part. You're like, each planet lines up with a particular gate in your center. And it's just telling you like who you are. What are your main personality traits and characteristics? You know, what are you here to do? Where are your vulnerabilities? Where should you be more mindful about putting up boundaries? Yeah, it's just a really cool roadmap of your energy.
Amazing. And actually, you know, what you're saying about well, the first time I looked at it, I was like, what is this? Like, it's just a random map with all
It
these
looks
shapes
like
on.
an alien chart, right?
Yeah, it does. It really does look like some sort of alien thing. I was just wondering, did you want to share your screen to perhaps show anyone that was watching on YouTube? Because
Absolutely.
I just feel like it might be really interesting, especially if people are watching on Spotify, listening on Spotify and thinking, actually, I'd like to see that. Might be worth you can jump onto YouTube and then see the actual chart, because it'll make so much sense, because otherwise you're going to be thinking, what are you talking about? But I will put obviously your links to everything in the show notes regardless, so people can see it. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
you see it?
all of those side panels, I have no idea what that is.
Right, exactly. I mean, you don't have to worry about much, but all you can know is that the red is your subconscious. So that actually
Wow.
is when the neutrinos hit 3 months before you're born. That's why I like human design. It's just like more detailed about your
Wow.
subconscious, versus astrology just takes the day you're born, which is the black side, the day you're born. And I
Oh,
dove
wow.
deep into astrology as I was learning human design. It's funny, I was like, I don't know if I like human design. So then I went totally deep into astrology. And then now that I'm like embracing the human design, it's almost like that aha moment. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I can see all of the astrology and the human design incorporated all together. So yeah.
It
So
is just so incredible. I mean, I guess all I knew was that I was a manifesting generator. And I think that's really all I knew. And then it was 5-1. Is that right? Is that my thing?
let's go to yours just right here. Yep.
Yeah.
5-1.
So what
Yep.
does that mean?
That exactly. That means that you are, they call it a martyr investigator. Right? I'm trying to think if it's, I always get the 5 and the 3. No, it's heretic. 5, heretic, and the investigator. And I don't think I put that in your email. Yeah. So what you are is you are just like, you encompass life. Like you feel like when you go out in nature, like you feel nature, like you embody life and you embody nature. You're dancing, you embody the dancing. That's just the beauty of your perspective on life. And then the one line is you also have a combination of being an investigator. So when you're interested in something, or even if it's just a glimmer of curiosity, you're like, well, let's just dive deeper in that. Let's Google that. Let's look that up. Let's watch as many documentaries as I can about that topic. And that's your nature. And I love how you're smiling. Yep,
Yeah,
that's
I'm
it.
like, yeah, that sounds spot on.
Yeah, so it just gives you a beautiful like overall profile of your personality.
Yeah, I think it's so incredible. And I guess for a lot of people, this is something so different to what they've known. But I guess, the beauty of all of these practices and understanding again is to gain that self-awareness, because when
Yeah.
the way that you act or the way you react to certain situation is actually something that's been ingrained in your soul before you were even here. That is just a really wonderful thing, isn't it? To be able to know and understand. And I think I don't think we get those opportunities to really know that, in like the kind of
Yeah.
mundane life pattern of just doing a 9 to 5, work and going home. You don't ever get to really understand that, maybe you were meant for more, or your soul was destined for this pathway, and you think that it's luck or chance that you've ended up falling into this path,
Yeah.
but actually you were always supposed to be this. So I think it's really, just completely interested and mind blown. Like, even for me now, obviously being curious, as you said, I just want to know everything. I could just be here all
Yep.
day and look at all the numbers and be like, wow, so what does that mean? I think the first time I
Yeah,
did
you'll
it for
ask me
myself,
about every single aspect if we could, right? You'd be
oh,
an expert at the end of the day if you could.
yeah, absolutely. And that's me. And my sister was last, because she's like, why are you so good at everything? It's because I can't just be average at it. I have to know how it works. Why does it do that? I have to know all
Amazing.
the details. And I think that's it, isn't it? It's almost that deep
Well, and
dive
that's what I
in.
wanted to touch on is when you interact with other people and they're unaware, right? And this is the thing, that if we can expand the awareness that we're all unique and different, even without knowing our human design charts, then there's less judgment, right? There's less feeling like,
Mm,
oh, well, I should shrink because they think I'm weird because I'm dancing like a flower. It's like,
mm,
that's the 5. You're embodying the beauty of life. Whereas someone who isn't a 5, they're like, you look really weird. I have no idea what you're doing. Like, I can't relate. And so then the judgment comes out, and then the 5 shrinks, and then you
mm.
reduce yourself. And that's really not what we want to do to each other. We want to be like a puzzle piece to complete the puzzle, and
Yeah. And that's
allow our strengths and uniquenesses to shine.
And that's so spot on, because I think that was really my growing up, like I was like doing all these things, and then I made myself small to fit in. And actually, as I've gotten older, the more sort of audacious I've gotten and bold I've gotten, because I just don't care anymore, but I think that all
Yeah.
comes with, that inner knowing, and like building my confidence, and like authentic confidence as well, not the toxic
Yeah.
masculine version that I was portraying to the world before. Like, this is that real deep, like, I'm just enough as I am, and so much
Yeah.
more than enough. And I think that's really why, having the permission to shine, and that saying in itself is so powerful and important to me, because I feel like for so long I didn't allow myself to shine, because I didn't want to be that person that took up all the space and was in the spotlight, because it threatened other people. Now I'm like, if my light blinds you, honey, put your sunglasses on, because I'm not dimming down. Do you know what I mean?
That's it. That's it. And then it only comes through that work and self-awareness. And your
Yeah.
sister said you're good at everything. It's also because you're a manifesting generator. You're the expert multitasker. So you can, with your one line, you can investigate multiple things at one time. You can just like dive deep, absorb everything really quickly. You're a very speedy learner. And yeah, then you've mastered it. And so you appear like, yeah, you are the master of all trades as the manifesting generator.
That was actually really nice to hear as well, because I feel like I've always had lots of plates spinning, like
Yeah,
as a
people, yeah, that's very frowned upon in society, right?
yeah, like,
Yeah.
especially, doing the dance and the dance teaching. And as I started to step into the mentoring field, and then obviously doing the circus work as well at one time, there was lots of things I was juggling in at one go. And now I'm trying to
Yeah.
really, I guess I'm always doing that without realizing, I could read 3 books at one time, and people are
Yeah.
like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I could read 3 books at one time, listen to podcasts, and choreograph different tracks. Like, it's just how my brain and my body functions. But clearly it makes so much sense now, which is great to know.
Yeah. And the other thing about your multitasking is just solely, yes, you can do that because you're a manifesting generator, but your split definition, it's called here, is your split interest. Like, your mind
Mm,
and body are torn. You're like, oh, but I can do dance. Oh, but I can do podcasting. Oh, but I can be coach. And yes, you can be all those things and beautifully shine, because you have this channel here connecting, and then you have this channel here connecting, and that creates a split definition. So you have a really strong personality trait between your emotional center and your root center, like the root of your adrenals, and like what kind of motions you to actually go and do something. And then this channel here is a really strong personality trait between your doing, and like the sacral is the sexual organs, the doing, and it channels up into, okay, let's do this. And you're speaking it out. You're like, yep, we got this. So that, I feel like that's like your coaching channel up there. And then your dancing channels down here.
That's
So
so interesting. Definition. And I guess, would you say that it's kind of connected to like, I don't know, intuition maybe, or like, like manifesting, like you speak things into existence. Is that kind of connected there?
Yeah, you could actually use your voice. Yes, because the manifesting generator has a bit of the manifester. There's another type called manifester energy. I'll just list the different types. We have generator, manifesting generator. So that's 37% of the population are generators. Manifesting generators, 33%. Then we have projectors, which are 20%, manifestors, which are about 9%, and then reflectors, which are about 1% of the population. So the manifester is a little bit more rare, and so that's why a lot of times it's mixed in with the generator, and it gives you this power to inform. And if you inform before you start diving into your whatever you're wanting to do, then you'll hit less roadblocks. You will flow more with ease. So your strategy as a manifesting generator is a little bit more complex because you have two. You inform, and then you wait to respond. So you kind of get a little bit of an extra boost, where us generators just have to wait to respond to different things and opportunities and so forth.
So you said you're a generator?
I'm a generator. Yes.
Okay, interesting.
So I just get to do what I love and then wait. I mean, you can also do the same, but you have that extra like, ooh, I can manifest this by saying, hey, I'm thinking about launching a workshop or whatever. And then just like do what you do, love it, wait to respond. And then people will kind of hop in and respond to you.
Wow, that is literally like spot on to like everything. I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes everything now is clear. What was I say? So, I mean, we spoke about like the good traits, but I guess it's really good to hear what are the bad traits, or the traits that obviously would have maybe been an issue or might still be an issue for me, because I'm sure people are like, yeah, let me know what the bad stuff is.
We all have a shadow side to us, right? There's light and dark, good and bad, and there's gray areas all in the middle. And what I like to look at in a chart is the white centers, which are called open centers, which I like to make an analogy of. It's kind of like having your back door or your window open in your house with no screen. If you're unaware and you're operating in kind of like the ego mindset or that shadow side. So for your open head center, every white center amplifies. So we have to think about energy first as like, let's say music. The radio station is the defined centers pumping out consistent music, and the radio receiver in your house is the white centers kind of like receiving that music. So you're always amplifying loads of different various inspirations, ideas, and then that pushes down also to your open ajna center, which is all about conceptualizing. And so you have a huge variety of solutions and ways. And so when you are with an unaware defined ajna, let's say, and they're like, well, there's only one way to do it right. And you're like, well, hang on a bit. That's not quite right. Like there's probably 10 different ways we could find a solution to this problem or to create this inspiration. And they're like, nope, my way or the highway. And you're like, well, see ya, because that's not going to work for me. And you're like, there's way too many options. Or you try and fix and force the person who's stuck in the one idea to see all your ideas. Like depending on how your relationship is either avoidant or anxious, you're going to either fix or you're just going to walk away. And yeah, so you can see how that can become like a toxic interaction, more of the shadow side of the open head and ajna center operating there.
Yeah, I definitely felt personally attacked then. I was like, yeah, I'm a fixer. I'm a fixer. And I've actually really worked on that as well. So like what you're saying there, I think I actually spoke to you about this on your podcast. I feel like now I've kind of tried to master the art of saying, do you need my advice? Or do you just want me to listen? And I think that's kind of really been like a saving grace for me, because I feel like a lot of friendships I was having, especially when I was doing my masters and diving into like the understanding of how I was going to be a mentor and a coach, like when that all started to bubble up and come to the surface, I was giving unsolicited advice. And I say that with kindness though to myself, because what I was
Yeah,
saying
like
was
you
actually,
had good intentions.
yeah, and it was
Yeah.
the right thing that they needed to hear. They just didn't want to hear it, So I think
Yeah.
now I'm in that space of like, do you want to know? Would you like my opinion? And actually, I find now that people come to me and they say that, oh, do you mind if I just vent for a second? I'm like, yeah, cool. Or they might say, I really need your opinion on this. And that's really nice, because again, I've set that boundary. And I think that was something that I struggled with,
good.
growing up, especially, all of that over opinionated and like set in my way, thought I was always right. So I was like trying to hide myself on the video. I was like, no, that was me. I feel seen.
Well, and you have a defined throat. So there's a lot of power in your voice, and you have the energy connected to your throat. So you're like, yeah, let's do it. Like here's the solution. Let's do it. Let's fix it. I would think we all are fixers. And there's so many different variations in our centers that can create that. I have defined head and center, and I was a fixer because my solar plexus is open. And so I amplify the feelings of others, and I feel like their sadness or their worry or their anxiety or whatever. And it's like, I don't want that feeling. So let's fix it. That's the shadow
Yeah,
part of
and
that.
that's so empath, isn't it? Like that's
Yeah.
such a deep empath, the fact that you feel it so deeply. Like one of my best friends, she's exactly that. Like she can walk into a room and sense all of the energy, and it becomes overwhelming for her. So she's always like protecting her energy all the time. And now that might seem very woo-woo to someone that's not familiar with those concepts, or you might feel really seen in that statement and be like, do you know what? I've never realized why I feel like that, but that is why. It's because we're all receptive, aren't we, in our own ways to different things.
Well, and the chart shows you, that's what's so incredible. It's like, oh my gosh, like I never knew why. Like, let's say you do go in a big crowd and you feel really overwhelmed with, like, you have so many, like you can hear thoughts. Like there is telepathy also with the head. So you may actually like start thinking thoughts that you never thought before. It's like you're channeling the thoughts of others in the room. And if you get too many people, or like you're in a crowded, loud restaurant or whatever, you go home and you're like, I got to veg on Netflix for like 4 days. Like that was horrible and exhausting. And it's just because you haven't screened and shielded up your open centers, which is your empath aura. And then you can get really specific about your centers.
Yeah, which is so interesting, because I feel like, I mean, this might make sense to you as well in this space, but I felt like I was really closed. My chakras and everything, my energy was closed for my whole survival period. So that was what, 29 years. And then it's only been since I really dived into the spirituality that I've been more openly making an effort to open up my chakras and my energy so I can flow through. Because I think one of the things that I'd found out when I was going through my healing journey was that because I'd armored up so much, I wasn't allowing anything in or out. So I was just like, becoming overwhelmed, and it was like suffocating me, my own sort of limitations, like I was creating that barrier for myself. So I feel like it's almost a flip of that, in a sense. It's like almost the opposite I had to do. But I do protect my energy always, now going into spaces, because I do feel so much more open and more empathy and sympathy, I think, for a lot of people. Like I feel like that was something I really struggled with, was that oh, well, you haven't been through that, so rah. And again, that was like a real ego thing, that I was saying there. But we only experience life based on our own understanding, don't we? So, because I was in that toxic, masculine, wounded space, that was what I was projecting out. That was what I was getting back. So it's just really interesting to like have that tie with all of those things. It's really, really interesting.
And go ahead, ask your question.
I know, I was going to say, I'm just curious how the star signs play a part in this, because obviously there's different numbers on the same part. So I was just looking at that thinking, why is that so different? I don't even...
They usually line up, and we always look at this top right. this is also where we get your incarnation cross. But if you pull up your astrology chart, you would go with the black colors here. And more like 99% of the time they line up. So
Wow.
the gates, these numbers also correlate to a zodiac sign. And like I said, 99% of the time they're accurate. So I don't have my book in front of me to know exactly which. Actually, I do have a chart I could pull up, but 29 is correlated to a zodiac sign. This is the sun sign. And more than likely it'll line up with your, is it Taurus you said you were?
Leo.
Yeah. That'd be interesting to look, but typically they do line up. And yeah, it just gives you more information to learn more about, okay, my sun sign's in Leo.
And what's that
about?
star? What's the star one?
This star?
Yeah.
It's funny, my cursor is landing right on that.
Yeah.
I don't know. See, you're an investigator. You're like finding all the details. I got to go research. Like, I don't know. I have to research that one.
Because
I have to research the star.
In astrology, they say the 29th degree is based on the previous life. So it's like it's not your life in this lifetime. It's like based on your soul's life before. But I don't know, obviously, if it's the same degrees, because you got up to 60 on here. So yeah, I was
the gates,
by
these aren't degrees, right?
No.
Because it goes 61, right? There's no 61 degrees in the astrology chart. These are, I don't know why and how they've numbered them, but yeah, they just kind of go up because that's how many gates there are in the whole entire chart.
Ah, I see.
So yeah, these aren't degrees. These are just gate numbers. So I don't know. I don't have my book right next to me.
No, you're fine. But I think for anyone that's listening, that's thinking, what are you going on about? Basically, the middle image is like, it's your chakras in. So think about it like your chakras opens like all the way down in different shapes of the chakras. There's little numbers on each part that connect to different parts of your body in the chakras. And then those numbers are also down the side. So it's like, there is like, how many numbers on here would you say?
In the whole chart?
Yeah.
I think there's 64. Right, I remember correctly. Yeah.
So there's like 64 different combinations of numbers that all have an intricate meaning. So that's why human design is so accurate, because it's obviously based on like numerical connections that make sense, like the science and all of these things. So that's why it's a little bit more deeper than probably what you'd find with astrology or I guess any other type of thing. And like kind of like I don't know if you know the Myers-Briggs, it's like kind of a similar thing. You do the personality test, but it changes, whereas obviously this is just your human makeup, right? Your human design is how you are exactly to a T. So I mean, people that get a chart read, you might be triggered because it's going to show everything, all of the things.
Yeah, usually when I do the chart reading, I talk about all of the superpowers that they have, right? This is where you shine, which then automatically just erases all of the conditioning and like the lies that they've been told. And then, in the podcast Tuesdays, I've been going into more of like, where are you vulnerable in each center? So we just touched on the identity center, which yours is open. So you may have felt at one point in your life unlovable. You experience life in a variety of ways. Like you experience yourself, like your identity differently depending on which crowd you're with. And your friend base could be highly ranged. Like this is where you get your extra empathy superpower. And especially this is really great for a coach, because you don't have to ask them any questions. You can just sit in their presence and you can feel how they feel about themselves. And you're like, right, I got it. I know how to guide this person.
You're so right. I even said that to my sister today. We were just out and I just looked at this couple and I went, I know exactly what they're both thinking. And I just knew that just from being in their presence. And I was like, it really is a gift. And you know what else as well that I've noticed I can do is I can diagnose what a situation is, like when it's mental health related. So, if someone's saying, oh, I've just been doing this thing. And I'm like, instead of asking questions, I'll be straight away. I'll say, it's that this is why you're feeling that way. And they're like, oh my gosh, I never would have thought about it like that. You're so right. And this is, I guess, the beauty of going into this space, because I feel like I'm constantly being rewarded by the universe with signs like that to show that this is the right space I should be in, which is, it's a completely cycle of reward, because it's like, not only am I able to help someone else, it's also showing me that, this is exactly what I should be doing. So yeah,
It's
really
your
lovely.
superpower. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Which is so crazy to me, because all these years, I think, again, I was living through my egos. Then to be rewarded through just being who I am, that's the
Mm.
greatest gift of all of these things. And I'm sure that you're finding that for yourself too,
Yeah.
aren't you? You know, that all of these
Yeah.
things that you can do, like to look at this chart and like I'm completely mind blown. And you know what all of this means. That for me, that's like, wow, that's incredible, you know?
Yeah,
Just
it
shows the
is.
power of our individuality and all of these
Yeah.
things. So I guess for you, when you came about your chart and you got your chart ready for the first time, was that at a point where you'd already left, or were you about to leave?
Oh, I had already left and I had already remarried and had kids. So that was after my like spiritual, okay, aha moment.
Hmm.
And yeah, I was in the process of writing my book, I think in the first or second version. Um, yeah, because the third version is what I published and it had the human design in the end of it. Yeah. So I had experienced, like, I had released a lot of things through meditation and EFT tapping. And I think also, yes, I had a past life regression meditation already at that point. I had connected with my healed ancestors. Like, these are my favorite ways to heal and cycle break.
Yeah.
And then I found human design and she introduced me to that. So it was just like the icing on the cake. It was like the final chapter. Of course, there's never a final chapter, but it just felt like the angel singing kind of moment in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that's a beautiful thing, I think, about healing. Is that it's almost like it becomes addictive, doesn't it? Because it's like, how can I keep going further? How can I make this, like, that little bit of feeling that you get from the satisfaction of like feeling lighter, and then you keep going into these fields of, you know, more. And there is so much available, you know, like for some people they might have even heard of some of the things that you've mentioned there, but it is such an
Right.
endless field and ocean of these beautiful ways that you can take. And I think I just really recommend that. And I think that's something for all of the guests that I have on. There has been some form of that in some way that's led them to the version of themselves now, which is so powerful and important for me to be able to showcase. Because I mean, you can absolutely get to where you want to be on your own without, you know, having maybe a therapist or something like that. You know, I was one of those people, I didn't actually have a therapist, but I was doing those practices, the breath work, the meditation, the journaling, the breath, yeah, all of these things that connected, yoga, movement, you know. And it's like that, just that knowing, that inner knowing that this shouldn't feel like this. I don't want to feel like this anymore. Like, how can I do more and get out of this? And the reward is obviously the peace and the tranquility that you feel and the ease. And I'm guessing now that you're in this space where obviously you're healing, you're continuing to heal, and I'm just understand that like you said, it all comes from you. So you're not putting anyone else on a pedestal, or not I guess for me it was like putting like certain things on a pedestal for validation, you know, like
Yeah.
being a successful dancer, or, you know, being successful in that. And I guess to an extent we all want to be seen and heard for like our true, whatever our heart connects to, don't we? That's like our thing as human beings. So I guess if you can find that through going inwards first, I think that really finds that authentic, intrinsic version of that, rather than searching outwardly. Because I think when the people I've met in my lifetime, you know, like even my mum's friends and people my mum's age and even older, like my stepnan's age and all of these, it's like people will waste their whole lifetime looking outwardly for the answers. And they've always been there, haven't they? Always, always, always. And
Always.
it's being brave enough to listen to that inner voice, because I think we get so busy existing that we forget to actually really live. And I think yeah, it's just really wonderful to hear. And it's funny, isn't it, how certain moments in our lives make us look at that point, you know, for you getting to that point in your relationship and just realizing that this is not how it should be anymore. Like, I don't want to feel like this.
Yeah. Thank you, Saturn return. I mean, I appreciate Mother Saturn so
Yeah.
much for that, like, shaking of like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, isn't it that? Gosh, I feel you on that. I had the same Saturn return was like very yeah, shook the ground from underneath me for sure. It's just crazy, isn't it? And I think when you're aware of all of these
Yeah.
things that are at play, like, you know, in astrology, in like spirituality and all of these things that are outside of our 3D world, it just gives us so much more clarity and understanding that we are so much more than just a fleshy body, aren't we? You know, and I think that sometimes for people that are feeling stuck right now, it's just understanding that you are just so much more than what you think you are. And if you gave yourself the permission to be bigger and have more energy and take up more space, you would find that like things start to radiate and gravitate towards you, because when you're being that truest version of yourself, that's where all the beautiful space is, isn't it? To like really thrive, I think.
Yeah. And if you evaluate, why do I feel stuck? And what emotions am I feeling right now? More than likely, there's fear, anxiety, some type of sadness or remorse. And so, of course, those are those lower vibration emotions that keep us in the quicksand. And we have to stretch our emotional muscle out to what's the worst that could happen? Right? What's the worst that can happen? And I know for you as an investigator, like, well, I try. That means I learned something versus failed, right? If you fail, that's like you embrace those because you're learning something every step of the way. So if we can, that was the biggest thing, is if we can be more curious about ourselves, our lives. What if, what if I did this? What's the worst that can happen? Just be curious and find your strategy in your human design chart to align. And then you will find that you can step out of that stuckness.
100% that. And like, like for me, self-awareness, like you just said, it has been the single-handedly the most incredible thing I could probably have ever encountered. And it's what I just really call everyone to do, is just to ask those few little questions every day. Like, how am I feeling? Do I really want this? Am I doing this because it's what I want, or am I pleasing other people? It's like just checking in with yourself first, always, and when I say about self-love, it's so much more than that. It's that self-acceptance. It's that self-inner knowing. It's allowing yourself and your intuition to lead. It's so all connected to this, and it's so beautiful and wonderful. And I think just your journey and how you've got there and how human design has helped you. And obviously I'll put the link in there for your readings and everything as well, because I'm sure there'll be lots of people that's interested.
I'm happy to read. If anyone doesn't know their chart at all, I'm happy to send you a summary reading. It'll be so much information. Be like, okay, that's enough. And then and that's all for free. I'm happy to pull that for you.
Yeah, amazing. I think that'd be really insightful to a lot of people, and they'll be like, wow, I didn't even know that about myself, which again, it gives you just a bit more of that acceleration, to move forward out of that stagnant energy. But I guess I like to kind of give a couple of top tips, so maybe for people that are maybe in a situation when they're still in a narcissistic relationship, or they're just coming into the healing journey, what would be your kind of top tips that you would share?
Oh, well, to jar my brain, I think I would go back to that same top tip, is to be curious about life. I mean, maybe I'm the only one, but I feel like we relate. So if we both related to being a perfectionist, I'm sure there's more out there that are that feel that perfectionism. Just be curious about life. It's okay. Like, just try it. What's the worst that can happen? And that will then help you. There's this one quick story I'll share. I know that we're just about to end, but it's of this woman who wanted to cross a creek, and it was too big, too deep, and she just couldn't easily cross it. There was no bridge, and she was stressing and pacing, right? This is how we feel when we're stuck. And then she just stopped, and she took a deep breath, and she was like, all right, I'll just stand here. Like, I just give up. And she looked down, and all of a sudden there was a stone right there that she could step on. And then she's like, okay, well, I'll try this one stone. And then she continued to breathe and relax. And then another stone appeared. And then another stone. So it's like, the more we can surrender, here's my second tip, the more you can surrender to the process, that next stepping stone, the universe will bring to you, and you'll be able to step on that. You don't have to worry about the bridge or the whole thing, just one step at a time.
100%. And you know what? I'd say surrender and patience are still my biggest things that I have to just do, because I want it all yesterday. I want it.
Yes, of course.
That's it. So it's something I'm still learning, and I can be open and say to myself, like, be more patient. You're not being patient. everyone's on different timelines. It's all of those beautiful things. So thank you so much. And I guess my final thing I like to say is kind of like a soul to soul message. So like, is there anything intuitively you feel like called to say at this time, like a message for the audience, maybe for your younger self? That's just something that you feel is a soul-led space message.
You are more amazing, unique, and powerful than you think you are, and you think everyone's telling you you are. You have this divine light within you that's waiting to shine out. And you are amazing. Like, I don't know how else to say, like, stop believing the society and your self-bullying and the lies that are holding you down. Like, you can, like, put your fist up and shine out as bright as you want when you're ready. And you have the power within you to do that.
100% that. If I could underline it, emoji it, circle it, that would be my physical statement to that statement. 100%. No, thank you so much, Raven. Like, so much beautiful insight there in your messaging and everything you are. Where can people find you? And obviously I'll pop all your links and everything below, and any projects or anything you've got coming up.
Yeah, it's really simple. I have everything on my homepage. You can find me on Instagram. You can sign up for the free human design there. You can listen to my podcast, all at ravenscottshow.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time and energy today. I hope that, I know the listeners would have found it really insightful, because I did. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Sherisse Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader for Women. If you are ready to up-level, to elevate, to ignite your inner flame, to burn everything you once were, to trailblaze into your future, into all of your manifestations and more, then head to my website to book a free 30-minute alignment call. I have one-to-one containers available for 90 days and 180 days. I also have an online program for 6 weeks. It's a group program for women called Permission to Shine. That's also available as a self-study as well. I have a journal available on Etsy as well as worksheets. There's multiple ways to work with me, and I'm here to help you. You deserve to shine, to be the most amazing, most confident, fearless version of yourself. What are you waiting for?